In an interview that you did recently, at the end of it, you said for the person to ask less reverential questions on behalf of people might, I just want to start with, I rushed around this morning to try and find some white pants.
Some white pants.
Some white pants in Chandigarh.
Okay.
Something like this. Your message that I've received over the years is sparked more of a rebellion in me.
Yeah.
And after the activities this morning of the who am I and how much have I,
Right.
it's nice to see over the years less and less importance being given to the opinions of people in my life.
Right.
But still there is some resting of an authority in you as a figure of sorts, even though I know that I am the one that's investing this figure with that authority in front of me. So I found that in coming here, it was a bit of a challenge in trying to come close to you by pushing through some barriers I found from the volunteers and these type of things, where small things were really pissing me off, like having to wear white or having to come to a camp to even come near you, and these type of things when over the years through messages online that I receive from you, it's just come and hang out. I just want to come and hang out. So it's been like this kind of formality and stuff, which is, in a sense, frustrating because I'm here now and it's just like hanging out at home or anywhere I go. It's still hanging out with you, being close to you.
But isn't that what we already usually and anyways do? Hanging about, hanging around, doing whatever the inner authority commands us to do. Is that anyway not the default mode of living for the bulk of world's population? I do, I need, I wear. I play, I decide. If that is the climax of all human freedom, then why are all these people hanging about nowhere close to freedom? The bulk of the world lives under liberal and democratic systems. Basic rights of citizens, civil liberties are more or less guaranteed, except in certain parts of the world. If the freedom to do whatever you want to do were the epitome of life, then democracy and liberalism would have meant enlightenment. Just do whatever you want to do, you have all the rights. Except willfully hurting others, you can be any way you want to be. Your life, you decide. As they say, my life, my rules, and all those things. But is that bringing us anywhere close to any kind of contentment? So, a little clarification is necessary. What I talked to you about was the pole star. The pole star. The pole star. The star that doesn't move its location in the sky. The pole star. So that you can look at it and navigate on the ground. I described it vividly so that the description enchants you, captivates your mind. I talked of a place that you haven't yet reached and probably would never reach. But I talked of it because the description of that place would facilitate your movement on this place. Just because I so vividly and figuratively described the pole star doesn't mean that you have landed on the pole star. So you have quoted me from the Rishikesh tour 3 years back, and I had said, there is really no need to vest authority in any institution, person, book, or entity outside of yourself, because fundamentally nothing outside of you anyway exists. Allow yourself to be the saint and you are home. And after that you have mentioned that you still vest some kind of an authority in me, and you have posed some queries related to that. What have I said? I'll repeat. There is really no need to vest authority in any institution, person, book, or entity outside of yourself, because fundamentally nothing outside of you anyway exists. Allow yourself to be the saint and you are home. Now, is that really your condition? If you were someone who really did not vest authority in anybody outside of yourself, including that part of yourself which you call as yourself but is actually dominated by the outside, then correspondingly there would have been no need to vest authority in any teacher or other figure. Because we treat authorities as authorities, because we treat false authorities as authorities, and only as long as we treat false authorities as authorities, we necessarily require to treat the liberating authority as an authority. Had you been the person who does not treat enticements, allurements, gold, sex, power, guns, knowledge, tradition, anything as authority, then surely you would not need any teacher as the authority. Do you get this? Who requires an authority? The one who already believes in authority. Because you believe in authority and the authority that you believe in is false authority, therefore there is no way to reach you except through authority. You listen only to authority. Come on. You listen only to authority. So how do I make myself heard by you? By donning an authority. Otherwise, would you listen? Would you? Nobody would. The speaker has to present himself as an authority, not because the speaker relishes it, but because authority is an imperative with his audiences. Some commoner is speaking. What kind of attention do you pay to him? The Prime Minister is speaking. You say, wait. I'll lend my ears. At least for a minute. And then you may, walk on. So who did you pay respect to? Authority. Do you really know the insides of the Prime Minister? Do you really know the insides of the commoner? Maybe the commoner was really saying something that was beautiful. But you would ignore. Listening would not even begin. So how would realization happen? For realization to happen, first of all, listening has to be initiated. And unfortunately, we all have brought ourselves to a condition where the very initiation of listening happens via authority. There is this singer in India, you would not have heard of him, but he is quite popular in India. Sonu Nigam. If you would, I hope I am not mixing up the names and all. If you would look up YouTube, and you can do that right now as well. One day he played a prank. He disguised himself as either a beggar or some jobless person or some decrepit. What did he disguise as? As a beggar. As a beggar playing the harmonium by the roadside. So he disguised himself quite nicely. And he's quite well known. He has followers in millions. People adore him. There would be so many who actually live by his songs. Now the same fellow is there by the roadside, sitting on the pavement, playing the harmonium and singing. And if I am recalling correctly, hardly anybody paid attention to him, right? One guy, just one guy. And came to him and offered him some money. Now that's how we are. If the stamp of authority is not there, these do not open. You don't even begin to listen. Are you getting it? Secondly, there is another motive why things like the white dress code are. We don't wake up to an occasion unless it is special. We are victims of the speciality syndrome. We live through life in expectation. We do not live life as it is. We are always living for some special moment, which is obvious because we live very unfulfilled lives. So we are planning for special days, booking things in advance, marking stuff on calendars, and doing all those things, right? It has to be an occasion. If it is an occasion, then we are alive to it. And if it is normal, run-of-the-mill life, then we snooze through it, don't we? What is it? It is just a common day. Does it deserve my awakened consciousness? No. I can sleep through the day. It's just another common day, 17th of July. Now, what's so special about 17th of July? Unless it happens to be a birthday. Nothing. So, you can sleepwalk through 17th of July. If something is to happen on 17th of July, first of all, 17th of July has to be declared as a special day so that you wake up. Now when you wake up, something can be said to you. Otherwise, the speaker will come and say something and find that the stuff is bouncing off your ears. So all this is nothing but a communication that this is special. And this is actually not special. But what do? We are suckers for speciality. When somebody wants to sell us something, what does he say? Oh, this is special. Why does it have to be special? Somebody wants to sell you something as common as a thali. So he will say, special thali. What is special thali? Tell me. What is ordinary thali? What is special thali? Special thali, then you pay attention. Not only you pay attention, the fellow commands a premium. Huh? The word special has become very, very special in our lives, which is actually a sickness. There is great beauty in ordinariness. But because we, as we said, live in unfulfilled ways, so if things are ordinary, we just won't be present to them. If I am just another guy, not only there would be fewer people to listen to me, and when I say fewer, I am highly, understating the extent of loss of audience. It would not merely be fewer, it would be to the extent of 2%, 5%. Maybe you would be there.
Just a person on the park bench, a stranger on the street.
Remember how we met? Even in Rishikesh, I did have a podium. I was a fellow on the podium, and that's when you came. And I fully appreciate where you are coming from. Authority is poisonous. And if you continue to believe in authorities, then you will never be able to be free. But what to do if we listen only to authorities? What to do if we listen only to authorities? Then even to expose authoritarianism, I will have to mask as an authority. So I am an authority. Listen to me. Now that you are listening, I can expose the myth of authority. What if I keep exposing the myths and there is nobody to listen to me, as usually happens? Getting it? And one more thing in this context. It is easy to debunk all external authority. But I have found that in debunking external authority, it is easier to fall prey to the internal authority called ego. One says, I do not listen to anybody else. Then to whom do you listen to? I listen only to myself. What is this myself? Are you a realized being? If you are a realized being, then you have all the right to say, I do not listen to anybody else, I listen only to myself. Because then your myself corresponds to the true self. You are saying, I listen only to the true self. It is not personal at all. But when we say that I listen only to myself, I follow only my own personal commandments, then is this self personal or not? Is this self carrying my name or not? Okay. If Jamie says, I follow myself, what is the name of this myself? If the name of this myself is Jamie, then it's a big problem. Because Jamie himself is a product of all the outside that he so carefully wants to keep aside and away. And he has at least partially succeeded. He has kept influences away. But how does he keep the internalized influences away? Who is Jamie? What is the name of those internalized influences? Jamie. How? So on one hand, I'm keeping this away, pushing, protecting myself. And on the other hand, I do not realize that the one who is being protected is himself a child of the world I am protecting it from. It is carrying the same DNA. Now there will be a double whammy. Not only would you fall prey to the outside, masquerading as the inside, you would also not know that you are besieged. See, if I control you from here by pointing a gun at you, it is obvious that you are under attack. But what if I control you through a chip planted in your brain? And I am sitting somewhere else and just operating you through some kind of a remote control mechanism. You would not even realize that you are in bondage. And that's the situation of most people. We immediately protest when a seemingly external authority tries to influence or dominate us. Right? We just cannot tolerate that. But we are very happy with our own whims and fantasies and caprices. In fact, we celebrate them, don't we? We celebrate myhood. I want, my opinion, my desire. I despise Mama. Why? Because all the time she was trying to control me. How do you live then? I live by my own rules without realizing that all your rules are actually coming from Mama. So Mama, the body, is being abhorred. And Mama, the influence, has been soaked in. And it's a dangerous situation. Very dangerous situation. Therefore, self-knowledge is needed. Just to know what all has gone into your system. We are not conscious of that because the instrument of consciousness itself is composed of external influences. Our consciousness operates through the brain. And the brain is such a gullible machine. First of all, the hardware is an influenced hardware, a legacy hardware, legacy in the truest sense, millions of years of legacy. Secondly, the software is all borrowed. Just language. Nothing said in the language. Just language is such a great conditioning influence. The day you learn language, you have also learned philosophy. Not that I have to say that hate that group or be affectionate towards that segment. I don't have to say these things. I just have to teach you ABCD. Teaching language to the kid is like indoctrinating him in a philosophy. You have told him a particular structure. So the wide open sky has been contained and confined into a structure. Now there is only so much that you can express. Language is not merely giving you expression, it is also giving you the boundaries of expression. Now you're conditioned. But you will never realize that even the normal process of upbringing is causing conditioning to be internalized. And this internalized conditioning becomes the internal authority, the new God. So, on one hand, we have a situation where if you go to Japan or Germany or even the UK, 20 to 35%, even 40% of the population is saying we do not belong to any religion. If you look at their religious demographics on a pie chart, the biggest segment is white. And what does white mean? No religion. We do not affiliate ourselves with any religion. So no religion, no God. So on one hand, man is consciously and deliberately avoiding God because God seems such an arbitrary authority. On the other hand, man is becoming his own new God. And God, as long as he was outside of us, was a problem. But God, when he is inside of us, is outright evil. Therefore, the world today has actually espoused an evil to ward off a problem. How clever is that? The God outside is gone because we said, oh, he's just a fantasy. Look at those angels. And we make fun of those things, especially with all the scientific progress. And we say, this is what the scriptures say, and none of them is talking of evolutionary biology. All of them are saying man made God and all those things. And surely, the writers of those scriptures did not know anything. They did not know something as basic as evolution. Even dinosaurs are not mentioned in any religious scripture. So what kind of all-knowing people were these who did not even talk of dinosaurs? It's very easy to make fun of and poke holes. So people are just jettisoning religion and God. Who is the new God? I am the new God. And how dare you speak down to me? You have to respect me. Don't try to ashame me. That's why you see all these new fads. Don't judge. Don't criticize. Have you noticed that traditionally these things, such reverences, were reserved only for God? You were told never to criticize God. You were told never to say bad things and shameful things about God. And you were told, whatsoever God does is all right. Were you not told that? You were said, you don't have any right to criticize God. Let him do whatever he does. It is acceptable. Now the same things we are applying to man's ego. We say, whatever you do is all right. Whatever you do. If you want to walk on all fours, it is all right. And if somebody laughs at you for this, then he is an enemy of civil liberty. If you are walking on all fours and somebody laughs at you, then you will take him to the Human Rights Commission. How dare he offend God? Man is his own new God. Very poor God. Very evil God. Stupid God. We need shame. all people, almost all people of the world need to be shown the mirror. We need guilt. We need surrender. Because man is God, so the earth is disappearing. As long as the earth belonged to the God of heavens, it was relatively safe. Now the earth belongs to the God of earth, or rather gods, multifarious. Everybody is a god. So the earth is just disintegrating. We need to judge. We need to have prohibitions. We need to have commandments. We need authorities. We need discipline. This planet is suffering because of too much of liberty. Man as he is not God, and therefore he does not deserve the liberties he has allotted to himself. Ask man to look into the mirror. Does he really deserve all the rights that he has conferred upon himself? Huh? We need a culture of responsibility, which loosely, broadly translates into obligations and duties. We need to talk about that. Enough of rights and liberties. We need to talk about responsibility. You appreciate this. All this is within the larger context of authority. Most people do not know what responsibility is, so they have to be taught responsibility. And if they do not willingly want to learn responsibility, we cannot wait for their wisdom to blossom in 40 years. The earth simply does not have that much time left. Those who do not want to learn responsibility have to be disciplined via authority. Either do it on your own. We fully agree that man's wisdom is sufficient and highest. But how many people do you find exhibiting a life full of wisdom? Tell me, please. I would be the first one to say that the highest authority is your own true self, your Atma. But how many people do you find who are living by their Atma and not their ego? Tell me, please. When you are living by your Atma, then you do not need any authority. Then any authority that tries to impose itself upon you would not merely be ignored, but actually sometimes be fiercely fought against. And that is wonderful. I would be all for that resistance against authority then, provided that resistance is coming from awakened people. But we do not have awakened people out here. Look all around yourself. Do you find awakening or do you find disaster? Now, do you want to give these people more rights or should they be taught obligations? Please. And if they are to be taught obligations, we need authority. Right? I understand the pitfalls of authoritarianism. I know what it can decompose into. That is obvious. If the wrong kind of center starts owning the authority, then you will have very quickly another world war. We saw how the last two happened. So the next one cannot be far away if authority gets concentrated in the wrong hands. But we'll have to run that risk. The best we can do is be very, very careful about who the authority is going to. About that, you must be extremely meticulous. But if you say that you do not need anyone to exert influence upon you, then you are heading straight away for disaster. Are we getting this? It would have been a utopian situation, a paradise on earth, had we all been so awakened that we had not needed anybody to show us the way. Lovely. Jesus does not need to be the shepherd then. There are no sheep. You only have Christs. That is the perfect situation that a Jesus can hope for, and that's what he died for. But then the reality on ground is different. The world is full of sheep, and therefore you do require a Jesus. It's just that one has to be cautious of fake teachers, preachers, leaders, authorities. That vigilance has to be exercised. But exercising vigilance, discretion, vivek is one thing. And turning oneself into one's own God is a totally different and disastrous thing. Let's be cautious of that.
So, the Son of God, as you could say, can you speak on this? Because in terms of the authority, when I say in you, the only other ever would be Jesus Christ. And I understand the image, the story, but there's still something in me that connects with him so deeply to the point that I even became a Christian for a period of time, identified as a Christian. I learned it meant little Christ, went to the church and look around me and realize, did people know what they're singing about? Do they hear what this is? And was greatly disappointed in what I saw. People who are stuck in an identification of being the miserable sinner, the student, the disciple, the poor one, and all of these things. Because I hear the warning that you're giving to not allow ourselves or the ego to be God and these type of things. But there must be a point when the authority, you can declare as that you are a son of God, or along these lines. Otherwise, you are.
One has to live for that day. One has to very.
But I guess, like when.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, there
when
would
is
be a
it
lot
just
of
sick of it,
impatience.
enough of it?
One has to very lovingly bear that impatience, and it's an excruciating impatience. I understand. But then one has to be cautious. If it takes time, it's problematic. But if it happens too quickly, it's evil. If it happens too quickly, do you know what it means? The ego, without ripening, without dissolving, has declared itself extinct. It is still there, but it is advertising itself as gone. And that is deception, self-deception. It will advertise itself, proclaim itself as gone. It is there. And then it will say, when the ego is gone, all that remains is Godhood. So who am I now? God, son of God, anything. Daughter of God, whatever. You can then very comfortably proximate yourself to God. And that's like hacking the door to heaven.
That's why these relationship however you want to call it, is needed.
It is needed, but at the same time, these have to be very, very closely scrutinized, either through an awakened consciousness or through deep love. These are the only two tests. Deception cannot pass through either of these tests. If you are very, very careful in your listening, in your perception, then you will see through fraud. Or if you have a heart that is very full of love, then again you will see through fraud and smile. You cannot be enslaved. So, you see, that day I was saying, this old ancient place, India, has had hundreds and thousands of so-called liberated people. And some of them were actually utterly unique. We have their literature. We don't have to rely on hearsay. We know what those fellows composed. Some of them were wonderful. And at the same time, this very place produced the greatest kind of exploitation mankind has seen anywhere in the world. Millions of people remained in dark, undeserved, unmitigated, unmitigable slavery. These two go together. The possibility of liberation brings along with itself the possibility of exploitation. If you get the right teacher, there is liberation. But odds are very feeble in favor of getting the right companion or the right ambience, the right situation, whatsoever you call it. It need not be a formal teacher. Odds greatly favor a student falling in trap. After all, the ego does want liberation. And if you have a place like India, there are teachers, every nook and corner. And you are looking for something. So you keep chancing upon them, coming upon them, and sooner than later, you would be drawn to somebody. And there's a 99% probability that the fellow is a crook. So seeking liberation, you end up getting exploitation. You have to decide whether you want to run that risk. You can decide to play safe, as the neoliberals and the religionless, godless people do. They say all this hanky-panky business of enlightenment, liberation, awakening, etc. is very messy, very dirty. There is just too much fraud and mischief. So we are totally avoiding that direction. You cannot blame them for their decision. They are playing it safe, which is all right. But still a part of them would remain restless. It depends on your appetite to bear loss and your availability to get looted. Because it is such a dimension in which you do not easily get success. You get hit around, you get knocked off so many times. And then there is some possibility that you will develop some insight about life. Some people find the cost of that insight highly prohibitive. You have to take your own call. Whether you find investment in terms of time, energy, age, money worth it? If you want to trap animals in the summer months, where do you lay the trap? Where the water is. That's how, if you want to trap commoners, where must you lay the trap? Where freedom is. Doesn't matter the species to which the animal belongs. If it's summer, there is one thing it wants: water. Similarly, doesn't matter which trade, which race, which country, which gender, which ideology you come from. There is one thing that you necessarily want. What is it? Fulfillment. The thirst is for fulfillment. That's the thirst quencher. So you will go towards fulfillment. And if somebody wants to trap and exploit you, that's where the trap has to be laid. Why run after the rabbit? There is no need. Just wait where the water hole is. The rabbit will come to you.
In terms of speaking for myself here, I don't want to trap anyone. I hear what you're saying about getting trapped with the teacher and all of these things. When we're looking at authority here, my frustrations, my rebellion, my sickness of this, even this, the dress and all of this, right? It's I'm looking at it as I can sit on a park bench and hang about and chat with people who come in and out of my life and have beautiful conversations, honest conversations with each other that are very sweet and beautiful conversations. And that leaves, please forgive my language, it leaves me feeling like I'm in the right place. I don't know how to put it. If
nothing like it if it can happen that way. On a bench.
Aren't you cringing every day to come and look at this? You know, when you're saying this authority and all of that, I get that you what you're saying, you must play the authority and all of these things, right? I don't feel a need to prove myself to anybody about where I'm at or what I think or how my life is and all of these things, okay? I'm looking at it as a frustration now of wanting to, I look to yourself or to Jesus at the age of 30, the same age as myself. He had enough. He looked honestly at himself, looked honestly at the world. He's seeing the situation. It's enough. It's time to fight. I don't know how to put it. Now I am at a point in my life.
Did he have his ways?
Did he have his ways? What?
Did he use methods, Jesus?
Did he use methods?
Or was it all very random?
I think it was random. I don't see him having a method as in he's teaching people.
How about just sitting on a rock and sermonizing?
Yeah.
Does even that not contain a method? He too had his ways and methods. Because you are not speaking to the free and open space. You are a doctor. You are here to treat. You must have your processes and procedures. Otherwise, the thing won't happen. I fully will appreciate the joy of flying without restrictions in the open sky. But what if the bird is wounded? And honestly, is the bird to be let off to fly with wounded wings? What would it get? Flight or death? Freedom is extremely harmful if it comes to the unprepared one. That's why discipline is so important. I'm not saying undeserving one. We all deserve freedom. But we are not prepared. The merit is default. Because you are born human, so you deserve to be free. No questioning that. But preparation is voluntary. Preparation requires your conscious effort and deliberate discipline. Hence, preparation cannot be taken for granted. Your eligibility is default. Are you eligible for liberation? Of course. Are you ready for liberation? That's a different question. Very different. Now, somebody who is not yet ready, not yet prepared, if you confer freedom upon such a person, you have terrible evil at your hands. Because he would anyway not be free. Even if you arbitrarily hand over this freedom to him, he would anyway not be free. It's just that he will start surrendering to mean and false gods. What you call as freedom absolute is nothing but absolute devotion to one God. What is false freedom? It is an assumed freedom from the one God and consequent surrender to hundreds of false gods. You surrender to your neighbor, you surrender to the traffic cop, you surrender to the shopping mall, you surrender to your hormones, you surrender to your accumulated knowledge and prejudices. You keep kowtowing in front of all of these. And all the time declaring that you do not believe in God. Whereas the fact of your life is that you are submitting to 100 gods. That is what has been classically called as blasphemy, Blasphemy is not about insulting the true God. What about insulting? How can you insult him or something? How can you even respect him? Blasphemy is about respecting false gods. But we take blasphemy as uttering a word against God and his prophets, right? That's what you declare as a blasphemy, and then you take those fellows to the gallows. But the real blasphemy is happening in the houses and in the streets, where people are surrendering to all the false gods. That's real blasphemy. Therefore, all this talk against discipline and procedures and rules and regulations and authority would just lead to the creation of false gods. See, it's a matter of methods. It is not a matter of principles. You are not querying in the dimension of principle. There you don't really have any query or resistance. Your doubt is with respect to the methods. Authority is a method. And there is a difference between authority as a disease of the ego and authority as a method of the ego. Now, does that assuage your queries? Authority can be a disease of the sick ego, or authority can be a method used by the compassionate ego. One can don authority in compassion, in love. Don't parents try that with their kids? What if the kid says, don't try to impose yourself on me, and the kid is 3 years old? And spiritually speaking, are we any elder than 3 years of age? What is our spiritual age in general? Physically, we might be 75. Spiritually, 7.5. So, don't we need then a father figure? But obviously, I concur with you. Mostly the father figures are all child molesters. So he comes masquerading as the compassionate father and ends up tearing and biting into the child. One has to be cautious of that. About caution, I said there are only two routes. Either heightened consciousness or deepened love. If you have both or either of these, they are actually one, then you cannot be fooled. Then the exploiter can be avoided. Then you will see through his dark designs. Even exploitation in a sense is, justified. Only those get exploited who do not want the highest. When you go to a teacher, especially a spiritual teacher, if you do not go with the highest aim and the highest intention, all you will get is exploitation. And if you go with the highest aim and meet a fraud, one thing is certain, the fraud can deliver you this and that, but cannot deliver you the highest. Because he cannot deliver you the highest, and all you want is the highest, so you will immediately discard him. There will be many things in his shop, glamorous and glittering. But one thing would never be in his shop, liberation. He will be able to offer you physical health, some good food, this principle, that principle. He will talk about this and that, and then just charm and hypnotize you. The only way then to not fall in his trap is to ask him only one question. What is the highest? Can you give it to me? And if you cannot give the highest to me, keep all your other nonsense away. Except the highest, Jamie, everything else is worldly, is it not? And for worldly things, do you go to a guru? For worldly things, go to a supermarket. But you have gurus who sell stuff that should actually be bought in the supermarkets. Rava idli, masala dosa. This is stuff that gurus are selling. You go to their websites. They are competing with Amazon. They are selling all the kitchenware, garments, whatnot. All kinds of food products. Now, if you have to buy clothes, must you go to Amazon or to Gurudev? But Gurudev has bewitched you. Because you do not ask the one fundamental question, Gurudev, dosa mix is all right. Where is liberation? Now Gurudev will start hiding and talking gibberish. The moment you ask him that one pointed question, Gurudev has no answer. You ask for more sambar, he will be very happy. Yes, take it. Some kriya, some miscellaneous thing, some tourism, some nice place to visit. All this is very abundantly available. What is not available is the answer to one burning question, the only burning question that a spiritual seeker must have. What are my bondages? What is this thing called as liberation? And obviously, if you go deeper into it, the moment you ask, what are my bondages? You will have to ask, who am I to wear these bondages? That they will not address. So, exploitation is there, but it can be avoided. Provided you have a burning desire for the one right thing. Then you will not be falling prey to false authorities. Both are equally important, Jamie. On one hand, what you are talking of is critically important, avoiding false authority. On the other hand, identifying the right authority and learning from him is equally important. Otherwise, as they commonly say, you are throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
That's why I'm here now. It's this question that's driven me. It's the right authority, and these the best in my limited capacity, from what I can tell, studying for the last couple of years, living it out and looking honestly at my own life. That's why I'm here. Not a year ago, not 2 years ago, not 3 months ago. It's right now, because I've had enough. It's at this point now where, do I ask the question, what is the highest, can you give it to me? Then you say, who am I, and the bondages. All of these things I've looked at before. It's now responding to what I'm seeing around me, in a sense. If I'm not so focused on myself, it's looking at, like you said, the earth, the suffering, the pain, the bondages, this situation that we're in. Am I looking for an authority to say, yes, you're okay, and go out and help people? Or am I looking to help you? I don't know.
Experiment, try things, try many things.
Yeah, but that is what I have been doing, and it works through traveling, it seems.
Yes.
The constant of meeting people, especially in India, and blatantly destroying, like you did for me.
See, I'm myself very, very resistant to authorities, extremely. furiously. One thing I'll never take is orders and somebody's control upon my life. But then I have also put upon myself the responsibility to willingly bow down wherever I see light. I have told myself that if you want to have the freedom to dismiss and reject authority, then you must also carry the responsibility to voluntarily bow down wherever you smell that fragrance, you see that light. And that's an onerous responsibility, because now I have to be on my toes all the time. Once the conventional figures of authority are rejected, then you do not know where the gold can come from. It can come from anywhere. So you have to be alert all the time. And you are on your own. So you have to look around and find, and in finding, you sometimes, of course, rarely sometimes, come upon something or somebody who's worth giving your life to. So it's not that I do not learn from others. In fact, my task is even more difficult, because I have to first identify purely on my own. The ones that I learn from are not even erotizing myself. I, by doing all kinds of antics and jugglery, am at least making myself known. There is advertisement happening on social media, and things are happening. There is word of mouth. I'm making myself known. The ones I learn from are often antiquated figures. They do not come about declaring themselves or dancing or parading themselves. You have to dig them out from the archives and then learn from them. So yes, I sentiment. One must be fiercely resistant to the taskmasters and the, contemptuous. That's how one must be towards them. But along with that, one has to be extremely careful about discovering the right one for yourself, because you need that. Discovering the right one, right ones rather, why right one? Right ones. And very humbly learning from them. These two go in tandem. In fact, people are sometimes surprised. Now that you're talking of this, I recall. You say, on one hand, you are so critical of all the imposing and towering figures. On the other hand, when you bow down your head, it is almost as if you have laid down your head. My submission to a Kabir is as close to complete as probably it can be. People talk of Kabir Sahib, but they look at him as some kind of a saint poet. There are very few people who look at him the way I do. My relationship with him is entirely my own. It came from my own sense of responsibility. And there were 100 choices. It was after very careful consideration and after very compelling love that I decided to prostrate. So yes, it is your duty towards yourself to not to surrender easily. I often ask my audiences to not to uh, not to take me on face value. Test me, question me, grill me. At least that gives me something to speak to or speak upon. Otherwise, I'm. And that enables me to self-correct. How else will I know if I'm getting deviated? It's only when you raise something and then in that context I chance upon some gap, some hole. And then for that I'll be grateful to you. You have shown me the mirror and I could discover something missing somewhere. So it's resistance and it's love. And these two have to go together. You have to stubbornly, ferociously resist. You must not allow the buggers to even touch you. Keep them away. And on the other hand, there must be a bottomless love. When you have both of these, then there is some chance of redemption. When does one finish being a student? Jemmy asks. When one when one stops resisting being a student. When does one finish being a student? When the resistance to being a student is finished. Who is the teacher? The teacher is the most obedient and voluntary of all students. Who is the teacher? The teacher is not a non-student. The teacher is the first student. The teacher is the best student. The teacher is the most voluntary student. So when the student stops resisting being a student, that is the day he is a teacher without even knowing that he is a teacher. As long as you do not like being a student, it is established that you must remain a student. You know, I used to love sitting next to my audiences. If you will watch some of the videos, are not so far away. Not so. This is a continental separation. If you will just type Acharya Prashant 2011 or 2012 on YouTube, you will find me walking into the audiences, sitting with them and this and that. And I would never just limit myself to one place or one chair. I wanted to be all over the place. I wanted to go and actually touch them. So if I'm with you and I find that she's a bit off or lacking in attention, I would walk up to her and say, yes. And if there is those used to be large classrooms. I would be speaking in colleges, universities. So let's say 60 or 100 students are there. So if there is a group of 6 in the back benches and who seem totally distracted, looking out of the windows, I would actually just, have this mic and go and sit in between all of them. Say, yeah, no. My voice is anyway reaching everybody because I have this. So this I used to employ as a tool, the body. It was a great frustration for me when I was told to sit on this. I said, no. Why are you jailing me? But they said, no, you have to sit. And then they piled on the agony. They said, now that is there. That dark thing, I just don't like it. They said, now you have to always remain in focus and in frame. So you can't dance about. And I love to dance about. I used to do that. You don't have to resist wearing white. But we all have our idiosyncrasies. We all have our personal preferences. So I had my personal preferences. So I would, very stylishly want to sit on the edge of the table. You know that pose, right? Somebody holding a mic in one hand and sitting there over the edge. So that way I would sit and speak and do all those things. And then they said, no, sit on the chair and face the camera and all those things, and no hanky-panky. Don't throw your limbs about. Don't do this, don't do that. Even today, these people, when I say they, I don't mean outsiders, these people who are behind, they keep censoring me for excessive movement. When I'm really with you, I'm not merely centered, it's paradoxical, please take it, but I'm also excited. When I'm with you, when I'm not merely centered, but I'm also excited. And the body gives that away. You can see that in the movement of limbs and everything. Now they censor me, They tell me, all of them, wait, listen. They tell me that if this is kept here and your body moves, especially if you shake your legs, it's not happening tonight somehow, this starts doing like this and the camera catches that. But then, there is discipline involved in every trade. How can one man have absolute freedom when those around him do not have even partial freedom? Who am I to cry at my own personal loss? So I was willing to surrender some part of my superficial freedom so that the process can be more effective. I'm getting it. So that one has to take care of. In fact, again, I'll refer you back to the old videos. You will sometimes find I'm not even taking care to be dressed for the session, for the occasion. Some t-shirt, general lowers, and the two not matching with each other, disheveled hair. I would just wake up at 9 a.m., which used to be such a pain, and be hauled to the speaking room when I would start speaking, and the camera would catch me. But now they say that you must be, at least in decent enough clothes, with combed hair. I say, I don't like it, but this is a small price to pay if it makes the whole thing more effective. Anything for the mission. Anything for the success and efficacy of the mission. So it's all right. Getting it? So all these small things about discipleship, just take them. Just don't surrender on the more important fronts. These little compromises are all right. I fully appreciate that there would be many here who would not be relishing sitting on the floor with folded legs. This is not something that we are used to. We don't do this every day in our houses. So it might be aching, something might be getting a little stiff and this and that. It's all right. If it makes the process more effective. If it does not make it more effective, then we can change the process. Then we can bring in something that is more useful. So it's not a question of principle, it's a question of utility.